Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Lianas Senior Transition Support, specialists in downsizing and seniors residences.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed. My name is Matt Delvecchio, specializing in life transitions, downsizing in the senior living industry.
And my name is Corrie. I'm a clinical social worker and psychotherapist who specializes in grief and loss.
Coming right up on the first half of today's show, what you need to know about retirement homes and seniors residences. So many questions these days. You know, there's a bit of a stigma now with what has happened during the pandemic, yet we're seeing more and more inquiries these days than ever. There's more confidence out there, and most residences in retirement homes are fully vaccinated. So if you, a family member, a friend, or anyone you know is considering a move, you're going to want to listen in. And speaking of second doses, double doses, Corrie, you're one of those AstraZeneca doses, and you're waiting to see if you can get your second one.
I'm absolutely waiting with bated breath. I understand today was the first day of the walk-in clinics, and I am due, you have to wait 56 days, so I'm due for it on Thursday, Friday. I will be the first in line.
Well, good for you, And
what about you?
Yeah, I'm Pfizer, so I'm scheduled for the end of July, actually, for a second dose. And so I'm hoping that, like many others, that might be bumped up with more and more doses coming in the month of June. So to be continued.
That's right.
What do we have coming up on the second half?
On the second half, the ever-increasing role of pharmacists in helping us navigate our health concerns. You would actually be surprised at how much they can really help us and do for us these days. So I'm really looking forward to our listening to our guests share that information with us. That's all coming up after the 3:30 news.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing from Nada on that one. All right, the senior living industry has had their world turned upside down due to the pandemic, as I mentioned before, but things are looking bright as most people living in the residences are fully vaccinated, and lives and lifestyles are really getting back to normal. However, there still remains many questions and concerns, and to help us clear things up a bit, we have Joanne Iasenza, the leasing manager and marketing coordinator for Les Floralies Residences in Lachine and Lasalle. Someone I know very well, one of the hardest working people in the industry. Joanne, so glad to have you here on Life Unrehearsed.
Hello, Matt. Hello, Corrie.
Hello.
Hi, Joanne.
Hi. I just want to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to the both of you for having me on your show today to represent Floralies Senior Residences. It's an honor, honestly.
Well, no, it's our pleasure indeed. You are so knowledgeable, and I was so glad to get you here on the show. And you are, I've seen you in action many times, Joanne. Very compassionate, empathetic, very hardworking, and very knowledgeable. And we're going to pick your brain here, okay?
All right, no problem.
All right. Let's start off with there's a lot of acronyms in the senior living and healthcare world, starting with the difference between RPAs and CHSLDs.
Yes. Well, okay. So, at Floralies, Lachine, and Lasalle, we're dedicated to seniors who need care. We have RPAs, so our semi-autonomous residents, and these are people with light care and intermediate care. So that is administered by either our employees or the CLSC. We also have units that are residents that need more care. So the ones that need more are what we call CHSLD. Whether it's more cognitive or physical care, that's a profile that requires roughly 3 hours of care a day or more, depending on the person's medical evaluation. This is why we call ourselves specialists in the medicalized and progressive care residents. We follow their care level, their progress from semi-autonomous to heavy HCHSLD full care, and until the end. We have all the stages of their life covered under one roof. So whether their stay is permanent or temporary, the Floralies is able to meet all of their needs, current and future.
Right. So the way I like to kind of break it down, and you mentioned that, CHSLD, we would normally consider that as a nursing home, usually more than 3 hours of assistant daily care. And RPAs are more referred to as retirement homes. They can provide some care and usually less than 3 hours. So, no, thank you for explaining that. And I know, Corrie, you were chomping at the bit. You had a question for Joanne as well.
So that's one piece of it, the medical needs and care, but I'm sure there's a whole host of other considerations that people should be looking for when they are looking for retirement homes or senior residences.
Right. Well, yes. So if we were retirement home oriented, then we would have services such as like pool access, restaurant, and wine list. But for us, that's not our clientele. The key considerations for our residents, first off, is the quality of the construction of the property. I think concrete building, a security plan, an emergency evacuation plan in case of fire or other emergencies, keeping our residents safe, first and foremost. Also, I think another important quality is the care, to ensure that the loved ones enjoy their stay with us and that they're truly comfortable in the way that their new living space. So we've developed a program to help people view our residents as a next chapter in their life rather than their final phase. And, I have to say that when I joined the Floralies family, I said to myself, it has to be good enough that I would place my own loved ones here. And
Fair.
it gave me that feeling of security that I was looking for. So we treat our residents like one of our own, which I think is super important.
Yeah, Joanne, I'm glad that you brought up the most important thing. I think it has to start with the level of care. Whether it's RPA, retirement home, or CHSLD, we have to assume that there will be increased care over time, and you offer a great continuum of care. And that's one of the things when we go around with families looking for residences, starting with care. And then the next important ones, as you mentioned, they're in the retirement homes. There are some that have beautiful restaurants and activities and so on. And for others, that's not such a big deal, but they do require a higher level of staffing and everything in between. And you guys do a great job at that. You're listening to Life on Rehearse. Matt Del Vecchio here with my co-host Corrie Sirota, and we have Joanne Iasenza on the line from Residences Floralies. Joanne, another question for you, and this is probably more relevant now than ever. What are some of the biggest concerns that you're hearing expressed by families?
Okay. Well, the biggest concern I would have to say would be, again, the coverage of the care level, for their loved ones. The relationship between the staff and residents as well is very important. From my experience of sitting down with families, they want to be reassured that we have other residents that have approximately the same care or needs as their loved ones are needing. At Floralies, Lachine and Lasalle, we're able to do this. According to the needs, the level of care of each of our residents, we can offer various care levels, as well as offer a secure building. We're talking about the presence of staff, the amount of staff giving care on each floor. So the well-being, the security of their environment, these are all key priorities for us and for the families.
Yeah,
such relevant. It is almost like I'm thinking a checklist. In fact, I know, Matt, you're excited to be jumping in here, and I actually wanted to direct a question to you because this is your livelihood, this is your business, and this is something that you do day in and day out, and you do well. So I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are in terms of isolation and loneliness. I know these are major factors that contribute to mental health and well-being. It's one of the reasons people are actually transitioning into senior living communities. What would you say about that?
Yeah, and especially during this past year and a half, and we've seen it with the pandemic, the loneliness and isolation has been even magnified, and it's been difficult for a lot of families and individuals, particularly those perhaps there's been a death of a spouse and they've been living alone, and add the pandemic and the lack of visitation. So it has been a tough year and a half, and we're seeing a lot in the senior living industry in the past month to 2 months. A lot of inquiries because of this social aspect regarding retirement homes and residences, no longer having to be on your own in an apartment or a condo. And that's one of the big benefits, I think, of senior living, be it retirement homes or nursing homes, that you're improving your health and well-being simply based on the fact that there are other people around. I hear a lot, Corrie, that my mom or dad or my grandma or grandpa, they're not very sociable people, and we don't need all the activities. But the reality is when you're in an environment with others, even simply going to a dining room, is an important factor, not only for the nutritious aspect of it, but the fact that you're around others. And that helps with the mental health and well-being. So certainly one of the biggest aspects for moving into retirement homes and residences like Les Floralies is due to the social aspect about that. And Joanne, I just wanted to expand a little bit on considerations about retirement homes, because I know there's a lot of nervousness due to the pandemic, certainly from the care. But I would also see that the infection prevention and control has drastically improved in a lot of the residences, has it? And certainly at Floralies, and I see it in many of the seniors' residences.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the control, we have, we're because of this pandemic, we all know too well, there's been so many changes, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly. And now with the lifting of some restrictions, we're starting to breathe a little easier, if I may.
It's true, and when I go around and I see, I've been to Floralies many times just to see the PPE now, which didn't exist for many residences a year and a half ago, and following proper protocols. So I think that's been a wonderful improvement in the senior living industry in general about infection protection and control. It is no fluke that the flu pandemic, influenza has almost been non-existent in the public and in residences. So it's very, very encouraging. Now, Joanne, we have to head out to traffic for an update, but when we come back, there's situations, and we see this all the time, where adult children recognize that one or both of their parents' care requirements simply don't make it feasible to live at home anymore. However, there's resistance and denial. So we want to get your opinion about what you recommend to families that are facing these situations. But first, let's head to the CJD Traffic Center for a traffic update.
Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Floralies Senior Residences. Always there for you. Safe, reassuring, and comforting. We call it home.
Welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. I'm Corrie Sirota, along with my co-host Matt Delvecchio, and we are discussing what you need to know about retirement homes and seniors residences with Joanne Iasenza from Les Residences Floralies. But we're also getting some great information from Matt Delvecchio, because he knows a thing or two as well. Speaking of which, I'm going to go right back to Matt. Most Quebecers, or more Quebecers, have chosen to live in Quebec in seniors' residences than any other province. In fact, I looked up some statistics, and approximately 18% of seniors, 75 plus, live in senior living communities in Quebec, compared to a national average of only 8%. So it's more than double. Matt, why is that?
Yeah, it is quite amazing. And you even throw Ontario in there. Ontario is only around 4 to 5%, and we're about 18%. So I operate my business right across the country, and by far, Quebec has more people living in senior living. And so why is that? I think there's a couple of reasons out there. One, the province of Quebec subsidizes the private senior living industry, and most of the country is not subsidized. So basically, the government of Quebec deposits in your bank account somewhere to the tune of 10 to 15% of your monthly rent, and there it is. It just goes into your bank account as long as you're over 70 years old. So I think from a cost perspective, Quebec is very, very competitive. I'm not saying the industry, it's cheap to live in seniors residences, but it's certainly less expensive than the rest of the country. I think another reason is cultural reasons as well. Culturally, it's becoming more accepted, particularly in Quebec, to move into retirement communities. It used to be negative a generation or two ago, and now people are actually looking forward to it. Why? Because there is so much more choice. It is so competitive. Many services, many activities being offered, and I think that's a big part of it. So we should be proud here in Quebec. And Joanne, we're going to throw it back to you, because just before traffic, We see this, you and I see this all the time, and in situations where adult children recognize that one or maybe both of their parents' care requirements simply don't make it feasible to live at home. However, there's resistance and sometimes there's denial. So what do you recommend to families in these types of situations?
Yes, Matt, that's a common but normal situation. We listen to the concerns of the family. We always try to give the best information possible. You know that. We've been through a few. We understand. We're always available for support. And, it's not easy. We know that. We start an evaluation process with a short questionnaire. We use it to evaluate the needs of each resident. The questionnaire is used to ensure that we have all the information we need to be able to offer a future resident a care floor that is adequate to their individual needs. And of course, on a floor that other residents have similar needs. So if a family is unsure, doesn't know, for example, that their loved ones need to be in a home, or if it's the right decision, we sometimes offer short stays. So the family and the resident can see how they integrate to their new environment.
I love that. I think that that's so important because it sounds to me like it's demystifying the, I suppose the media doesn't help us sometimes when you look at some movies from the past or whatever. It gives retirement homes and senior residences a really bad rap. So by offering these tours that you do and the short stay programs, phenomenal. With all that said, I know that, as Matt had mentioned earlier, with COVID and the protocols that have to be put in place, it has to be very challenging to manage and adapt and pivot, as they use the word, to all these changes. So can you talk a little bit about how Floralies has adapted to many of the new changes and protocols required by the Ministry of Health and Social Services?
Absolutely, Corrie. So, oh my God, the protocols, right? With this pandemic, as we all know too well, there have been so many changes. Sometimes it's daily, sometimes it was weekly, and now with the lifting of some restrictions, we begin to breathe a little easier, but here comes new protocols. From wearing masks and visors, temperature control, gloves, you name it, hand sanitizing, distancing. You can imagine we had it all. Overall, our residents were guided and reminded to wear their masks if they were circulating. It's not easy for them, and I know that. But overall, I'm so proud of each and every one of them for their efforts. With so many sudden rules and protocols and changes, we followed protocols to a T. It was almost military. We didn't let our guards down. We all worked together to follow all the guidelines from public health. I just want to mention that we also launched a software program called CMO. It's basically a software program for care for nurses and PABs that gives us traceability and personalized care plans for each resident. We're soon launching another platform that will give families instant, real-time information, which is so important, I think, on their loved ones, called proximity. Mm-hmm. So, it's a rapid way to communicate. We have our emergency call systems in the room, so we've been equipped during the pandemic. And if I just may add a little point is that over the past several months, we're doing great in both locations. We're also seeing the light at the end of that tunnel. Getting back to pre-pandemic life.
The light is right, and things will change even more once we go to Orange Zone, right across the board. So very exciting. You're listening to Life on Rehearse with Matt Delvecchio, my co-host Corrie Sirota, and that's Joanne Iasenza on the other line from Les Residences Floralies. Joanne, we're running out of time. We have about a minute or so left. You've mentioned some of the differentiating factors that you're doing at Les Residences Floralies, and which one of them is in Lachine, one of them in LaSalle. Can you talk a little bit more about some of those differences? And I'd like to also mention one of the ones that I really like is concerning diets. Everyone has a diet situation, and you've got an excellent program about diet and diet control, don't you?
Yes, we have a dietitian. We offer. You're asking, what differentiates us from other residences, and apart from having medical staff 24/7, we have individual care plans. physiotherapists, technicians, ergotherapy, and a dietitian. So, we have a doctor that comes on once a week. We've got all the equipment necessary. And what you need to remember is that we have the capacity that we deal with residents with complex care. So no matter what the situation is, we do our utmost and accommodate. And most importantly, we're progressive residents. So, which means that once they come to Floralie, the stress of needing to move again to a different facility, well, we hear it so many times, it just disappears because once they're at Les Floralies, they're home until their final phase.
That's right. You can do full continuum of care all the way to palliative care.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Joanne. Can you please tell us how people can get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So we have a website, and you can go on www.residence.floralie.qc.ca. Or you can reach me on my cell at 438-396-6121.
All right, Joanne, thank you so much. And that's Floralie with a Lies at the end. Floralie.
That's correct.
And you could look them up on the web, give Joanne a call. And we also, on behalf of Corrie and I, Joanne, to the entire team at Floralie, we really do want to thank you for being a big supporter of Life on Rehearse. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Corrie, what do we have coming up?
The ever-increasing role of pharmacists in helping us navigate our health concerns. You'd be surprised at how much they really can do for us these days. That's all coming up after the 3:30 CTV News Update.